Oh, man.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Rally Podcast. I'm Mike White, here with your usual hosts, Logan Cornelius and Sean Boyer. We have a wonderful guest host, Ryan Fitzgerald of Anchored Li and Long Island Roundnet. And you also see we have Andrew Gasaway, who I guess he's not a special guest, but he will be joining as a host for this special episode, which will be Around the Horn Style, which, if you're not familiar, is a show on ESPN where they have a bunch of guests go around different hot takes, different opinions, and where they're scored. But Andrew can tell you more, so I'll pass it over to him.
Yeah, so today we're going to do 3 segments here, and before each segment, I'll break it down on what's going to happen. I also wanted to mention that I got this idea from watching old episodes of the Rally Podcast, which 2 of you were a part of the first edition of Around the Net, or Around the Horn Roundnet style. So go check that out on YouTube or wherever it is, Spotify. So this first section, each panelist or host, whatever you want to call them, gets a hot take or a spicy take, as this section is labeled Spicy is just a group chat. And each person gets their own hot take. You get 50 to 40 seconds to give it, say it out loud, and then everybody listens. And if one of you guys want to chime in with a rebuttal to why that's a trash hot take or it's cold or whatever, I will give each person that inputs points based on how I feel towards their answers. So I don't have an order picked out, but on my screen, Sean is on the left. So I'll let Sean go first, and then we'll go Sean, Logan, Mike, Fitzy. So your time is started.
Wow, all right, I got to set the bar. I'll preface with this hot take might upset some people, but my hot take is that no players who podiumed at 2019 Nationals will also podium at 2022 Nationals. There will be a completely new set of players.
I love it.
Is this hot takes or trash takes?
Hot takes, Logan.
Oh, okay. I got confused because of what Sean said.
Why do you think this is hot? And why is this hot? What does the community think about this? Do you think?
I think that the community of Spike over time has seen a lot of repeat success with players over the years. And so the expectation is that whoever's dominating or has been for the last couple of years will remain there. But I think just with the meta of the game changes so much, even some new rules and just the youth and the new players coming in will edge them out. And we'll see a lot of new faces starting to podium at big tournaments in the coming years.
Andrew, are we allowed to respond?
Sweet. Yes.
All right.
But you get one rebuttal. Rebuttal.
Preston, 16, 17, 18, 19. CS 3 in a row. They'll be back maybe. PJ, 2016 before that. Jarrett, 15.
So what's your point here? Don't forget the trash.
There have been 3+ players that have been on the podium like 4+ times, and I don't think they've given an indication of not playing. So I think there is a great indicator
that their abilities will remain at the peak and top level, aside from all of the young blood coming in.
I think they've been at it for 4 years. I don't think 2 more is a stretch. If you said like 2025, obviously that's different. I think 1 more year, as in like a year and a half from now, I think certainly.
Hey, Mike, they didn't call it cold takes, they called it hot takes.
All right, I'm going to jump in.
All right, go ahead.
I agree with Mike. Absolute trash take. Just because it's easy to dismiss, say, a CS if they're unsure they're playing, how many times, whether it is, taking 2 years off can be a lot, or a year and a half, whatever it is now. But, I mean, you have Preston, you have Caleb. I don't see how these rules dismiss any of their skills, if not elevate their skills with their hitting and their defensive efforts. You also have, you can't underestimate Jarrett every single year, not just for playing well in a season, but for showing up at a nationals. So very hot take. There's no chance.
I'm not going to waste my rebuttal on a take that refutes itself. So,
Hey, I said that this might make some people mad, and it seems like it's succeeded.
I love the take. Just wholeheartedly disagree.
Fair.
Love the take.
I stand by it.
I love it. Good start. So we said Logan, right? Next.
yep.
All right, let's hear it.
So my original take, I'll give my original take, and then I popped that in the microwave and upgraded. So my original take was that
Right.
no full Utah team will podium at any like of the SRA tour stops, but honestly, that feels like a cold take. So like no full Utah team will take top 8 at any of the SRA tour stops. Like I'm not necessarily counting sanctioned events because those are a little smaller. And like, might be able to get some there, but at the official SRA ones full blown, no Utah team in the top 8 at any of them.
Top 8.
No full
They
Utah.
can't make top 8.
Nope.
You don't think Spikers
your microwave's
can't make top 8?
broken.
I don't think they're going to. I think the game's evolving. They're not implementing the full rules and everything they're doing. So like they're still playing with old rules. They're getting the new rules in sometime. But they're a young community. They're growing and they're big, but they have a lot of youth right now. So they don't have a lot at the top. So no top 8 down here for Utah. Put in the books.
I love it. That's a solid 4 points there for sure. Does anyone want to say anything about that?
I'll say.
You go.
Oh, you want to go,
You go.
Mike?
No, you go.
I mean, it's not as crazy as Sean's. It's not a bad hot take. And I think, it's obviously a hot take because it's low odds, but we don't know how many times they're going to go to SRA events. Obviously, Taylor's running some amazing tour stops within Utah and all across the West Coast. They might just try to stick to the tournaments they know, and maybe they only go to 2 or 3 and something bad happens. It's not the worst take.
So, all right, I'll try to keep the hot take mentality, right? There's just like 2 good teams, right? Like maybe one, maybe 2.
Is that a hot take in and of itself?
I'm just trying to keep it going. So, yeah, it could happen. They go to every single of the 11 events. Okay, maybe they'll get in there. But if Logan's saying, maybe not. That's not
top 8 though. Top 8.
I think that top 8 is too big of a window to count them out. If you had said top 4, I could get on board for that. But
That's not a hot take then, though.
Well,
they would Utah definitely would say top 4 is a hot take.
Yeah, they might.
But yeah, I could see it. I don't necessarily agree, but I could see it.
I love it. Every one of you just got points. That was so good. My point thing is kind of breaking right now. I'm clicking it and it's not working. So I'll add the sound effects in post.
Point taker?
Yeah.
I think so. It was too hot. So I'll just keep a track on my phone. So we'll go with that.
We don't even see the points. So however you're taking.
You don't see the points. So I can just make them up, right? Points don't matter. Yeah. All right. Mike, hit me.
On to me. All right. At first, I had a take that was like a super cold take that I thought about it more. So I went with this one. I don't know how it'll hit. It's a little bit of a historical take right here. Strange Embrace making the finals in 2015 is one of maybe a top 3 best thing to ever happen to Roundnet. My thing is they got the underdog story. You got their big athletes. 2016 was the greatest competitive season in Roundnet. Thanks to them. They beat Chico. Jarrett's been an impact all the way since. They added that intensity. We would not be as competitive as we were today without Devin Matson. And that's my take. That was the biggest thing that could have happened for Roundnet.
So are you saying top 3? So you said top 3, and now you just followed up with the biggest thing. Like what is it? Lock in your hot take.
All right, we'll go just top 3. I can't lock it in as the biggest thing, but we'll say it's a top 3 thing to happen in Roundnet history.
I think for some context, we need to know what other things are in this top 3. What is this compared to?
I think the things would be the legacies of Chico and CS are big things in the history.
Do you think that's good for the sport, though?
So I didn't say, I guess I said like the biggest things. We'll see. You want me to say it's the biggest thing? I just think it was an incredible thing for the history of competitive roundnet.
Top 3.
I think it's a hot take because I don't think it's them making the finals in 2015 is top 3. I don't know.
I'm talking about the repercussions. I'll stop talking.
I got my butt handed to me at the top 3 thing for the sport.
So
No, Sean, you please.
all right. If we're looking at the reasons why you think they brought intensity and they're great athletes, I can agree with the second, but I think we had plenty of intensity from other teams. So I don't think that was some like novel thing they brought to the sport.
How about you could what about you spin it this way? You had 2 athletes, you could probably say they were by far the superior athletes in that matchup, but they got handled. So maybe it's a good thing for the sport and the fact that it's bringing it in, but it shows how the touch and the athleticism is it. Top 3 though, I think it's a good thing. I don't know. I don't think I can sit on top 3 though.
I didn't think we were going to stoop below Sean's original take. This is an absurd take. It is a blip in history. I think the fact that the finals was an okay finals, and it turned out that Strange ended up being an awesome story in roundnet history and a super important part, but they could have broken out next year. It didn't have to be at nationals. Obviously, it sits home pretty close to me because I could see myself being in that finals as well, and the history of roundnet would go on. So top 3 is absurd.
I don't know. Maybe you would, if you would have made that finals, you would have broke roundnet. That's what Mike's saying.
Yeah, maybe it's good for roundnet that nothing enormously important happened because they made the finals.
I love it.
Except for Jarrett being extremely good looking and them having plenty of photos to use.
That was on my list of good reasons.
I'll accept that one.
Yeah.
I love it. All right, Fitzy, let's hear it.
All right. This one hit me a little bit before we started this, and it might ruffle some people's feathers because I think it goes against the grain. With the new rules, I think that setting is the least important skill in roundnet. Reasons. I still think serving and receive are more important than setting, even though it's become more of a 2v2 game with the new rules. Instead of, I think it was trending towards being very serve versus serve receiver, it became very 1v1 and everyone else try not to mess up. I still think that's more important than setting. Being a really good hitter, now it's harder to hit. Arguably hitting was probably the least important because the top 200 players were a 90% hit rate without an error already.
Top
and
200
I think
players.
Defense just edges out. Yeah, it's hard to get with a good set. You're going to put away the hit, but I still think with good set, it's harder to put away a hit now. And with a bad set, you could still overcome that with a good hitter. So arguably it's defense in my eyes, but I think defense trumps elite setting. Elite defense trumps elite setting now with the new rules. So that's my hot take. Setting's the least important.
I'll say it. I think he has a good argument. I kind of like the take. I think my hot take I had before was that serving should have certainly been nerfed before this season. And I think that's also a testament to what he's saying, where serving and server stealing are still massively important. And I think it really depends on the scale, right? If we're talking about hitting not being as important because everyone's good at hitting, I think that's where you lose me or what I'm hearing, because I think it's so important. That's why everyone's good at it. And that's now setting wasn't as important before, and now it's going to be. I don't know if that made sense.
I guess I also want to know what makes setting important. Is a set to just put the ball on the net or a set to put the ball away? Because those are two different things, and that are before were mostly the same thing, but now that's two different things. There's sets that'll put the ball in the net, and there's sets that'll put the ball away.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say too. So I will agree that serving is possibly still the most important, because I don't think serving was nerfed enough by going from 6 foot to 7 foot with lean. I think it's just as powerful. But I think that there's no possible way you can say setting is the least important, because what I think separates really good teams from good teams is their finite like ability to place the ball wherever they want with their sets. And that in turn makes the hitters really good. You can't have great hitters without great sets. You can have people that can keep points going and save points because they had a bad set, but you can't have a 90% hit rate if you're not having a really, really accurate set rate.
I like that a lot. That was a high point scoring answer right there. I think the take is very hot. You got a lot of points for it.
I like your take. I like the take.
I think hitting's more important now because it's just harder to put the ball through somebody. And I would rather have an elite hitter, an average setter on my team than an elite setter with an average hitter.
But I think if you're getting trash, I think it depends on the level. If you're getting trash sets, it doesn't matter how good the hitter is, right? But it depends on the threshold, right? If you're talking, I'd rather a 75 setter with a 100 hitter, or a 100 hitter and a 75 setter, whatever I said the opposite. I think I'd agree with you. But it depends on the levels.
Well, what about
I just think it's hot because everyone came out and said settings now the most important, and I think it's reversed.
I think maybe setting isn't the most important. It's just setting before wasn't that important because you could just do it vaguely over the net and people would put it away. So the fact that it has any importance is ridiculous.
If a team is really solid on defense, does that also devalue the necessity of hitting? If you can, obviously, rally percentage, I don't think is just going to shoot through the roof. But if a team is solid on defense, like, okay, if I put this ball into play, I know I'll be able to play defense or get a solid touch when the hitting team puts it back on the net. And so that'll give us another opportunity to put the ball away. So you don't have to put the ball away as solidly if you're able to get a touch on their putback.
There's a lot of arguments to be made until people got to order them.
But you said that setting is the least important skill. I feel like setting was the least important skill-ish before because it was so easy that hitting was so easy.
I feel like defense was the least important skill before.
Probably defense
that's true.
Because it generated the least percentage breaks compared to the other. Like if you were a really good serve receiver or a server or anything like that, it generated more breaks than being an elite defense.
Fincy's converting me. I think that's the new narrative.
I just feel like new rules, like setting, not 100% of sets can be put away. Like there are bad sets. If you're playing with a player that's like me or even like shorter, my arms are so short. I can't touch a ball in the middle of the net. If you set in the middle of the net, I literally can't even reach it. Like it's that far away from me. So I don't know. I feel like setting is important because I can't reach things as a hitter. A little bit of bias, but that's just me. I don't know. I love it. Okay, those are some good hot takes. I won't say point totals just in case in editing I decide to give more points or whatever. We'll see. We'll play around with it.
Fixed final matchup?
No. Why would I ever do something like that? No. Anyway, moving on. Let's go to our second segment of Ace or Lip. So I'm going to give the guys three topics, if my screen will work. I'm going to give them three topics, one at a time, and each person will have a turn to talk and decide whether it's basically buy or sell. Do you like this? Do you think this take or this topic is like correct, or do you think it's a lip? Because there are way too many lips in our sport, and it happens all the time. So I don't know. Ace or lip? Okay, so let's go in reverse order. So Fitzy, you're first, and the first topic is Chiswick Showalter better in their time than Chico was in theirs?
Ooh.
Really,
Ace being good, question. Lip is being bad.
I'm gonna say yes, and I hate to say it to Sean because it's. I mean, they're such comparable things. But I'm going to say the difference is that the skills that CS portrayed were very much I guess you could say serve and serve receive, but obviously there are the other three categories were also very, very highly rated players in their own right. But those are things that could be practiced. So in a sense, it's everyone's coming out for them, and they could be practicing serves harder and harder and harder. And at the time when Chico was playing, it wasn't even really thought of to, can I out ace my opponent? It was, let's watch Chico be the most dominant defensive team and watch them be so cheeky. And I think once the game changed the pro set and the speed of play really ticked up a notch, it's just really hard to stay on that throne for just the same amount of time that Chico was on. So if starting now, if someone went on a 3-year run, I think that would be more impressive, because as the game's growing, there's going to be more competition. And if it's that same amount of time, same amount of dominance, because I think the dominance is similar, I have to give the edge to CS. But I mean, it's a knife's edge for me.
I like that. All right.
On to me?
Yeah.
My take? I reluctantly agree. I think CS is better than Chico's due to Chico's 2016 season, where they suffered 3 losses, of course, 1 at Nationals. I think Chico's, just if you consider 2014, 2015, of course, there weren't really season in 2014. But if you consider if you consider 2013, 2014, 2015, not without 2016, I think Chico's got it. They were so much better, way much better than what CS was comparatively. I think, unfortunately, 2016 makes that a little harder of an argument. I think it would be, I guess I'm giving CS the benefit of the doubt, but truthfully, with Chico, there weren't as much stuff going on back then, so it's harder to count those as more of full seasons than with CS's. So I think it gets a little tricky. I think I'll edge CS for similar reasons Fitzy says, but it's really hard for me because Chico during certain times was way better than CS's was over their competition. Mm-hmm. The other thing is, the other issue was that people brought it close later in the day. Should have stopped playing is what it was.
All right. That is a reverse cut, no touch ace for me. 3-2, first argument. You know, Chico only won 2 of them, and they lost 1. CS won 3. Granted, CS together and CS also beat Chico in their prime. So let's not forget about that. CS won 3 championships, and they endured a lot more change. So the game was progressing a lot more, much like Fitzy made the point, as CS was going. So they had to kind of deal with this new development of the game. They had to do a lot more change. I think Chico just had a really far head start when they were doing it, and they're trailblazers for that. And they did a lot for the game, but I think as far as competitively goes, CS endured a lot more change. They had a similar level of dominance. They won 1 more championship. And I think that puts them on top for me.
I want to mention, it would be ridiculous if on Around the Horn they're talking about MJ versus LeBron, and LeBron's and MJ's on the panel. That's what we're doing right now. That's what we're doing right now.
What I will say,
I feel very secure in my friendship with Sean. So
here's the thing: it's hard for me to not be biased in this situation, but I do think I would agree with a lot of your points. The one I would really disagree with is that CS endured more change than us. If you look at the start of like where Skylar and I are in the first tournaments we went to, and then the last tournaments we played in, the sport evolved so much over those years. And a lot of that was us staying ahead of the curve and trying to always find out that next way to play or the next meta on offense or where to be on defense. And like that for me is what I was really proud of as being one of the first top teams in the sport. And like, don't get me wrong, that still exists with like CS, and now it's a lot of serving meta and trying to find the next thing there. But like, I just encourage anyone to go look at our 2012 tournament footage and see what we were playing like, and then go watch some of the later stuff, like it was ever evolving. And so I would give us kudos for that. But I do think that CS in their prime were a better team, or what they accomplished in their era, than what we did. It's hard to compare.
True. But it was a tough question, and I didn't know how I felt about, having you, Sean, talk about yourself compared to CS, but I thought it'd be some good discussion. So
It's fun.
Okay, again backwards. So starting with you, Sean, will Roundnet ever need to make the switch to referees to become more legitimate, or can we get away with having passive observers for the foreseeable future of the sport?
Can you define foreseeable future?
10 years, 15 years, somewhere like that. Not like 100 years.
So if I say lip, what does that mean? Am I disagreeing with that?
Yeah, I guess we'll do it. It's yes or no. Do we need refs? Kind of.
Okay. I will say we need refs for the foreseeable future, being 10 years. I think that we've gotten to this point and made it work with this either self-refereeing or observers on the side that come in and make calls when needed. But I just think with the trajectory of the sport, where a lot of the players want it to be, the competitive nature that it's pulling out of people, the vision, the long-term vision of the sport is going to need something more official and concrete in terms of how we officiate the game. So I don't know exact time frame, but I think and I hope that down the road we will move more towards a referee front.
That's a lip for me, but on first serve. So that's a first serve lip. Lip is the other way around. I don't think we need referees in the foreseeable future. I think, and I think we don't need them, but I think there needs to be better determination on like rules. So I think there could be, like, I think things could be changed to where, like lips or certain things are made unclear. I think there's certain calls. I think the majority of calls are fine as they are. Like people agree, or you go to a ref. I think there are things that, such as lip.
You go to a what?
What? An observer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Which I guess I'm calling observer different than referee. I'm seeing referee as someone who's making active calls. Players aren't making any calls. I think the observer system is fine for the foreseeable future. Just because I think most calls are able to be determined. But I think certain calls need to be leveled out in the next year or two. If something like lip does not become more clear in the next year or two, it doesn't work. But I just don't think the sport is large enough yet to where there's sustainability for refs and all of the major series that we need them for to do that and establishing that. I mean, we're in year 6 of the sport, and there just isn't a large enough player base. People don't even want to observe, really. It's hard to get observers at tournaments. And so we're talking about, we want to institute refs for all of that. We have to create that base of people who want to referee and make calls in order to have that. And I just don't think there's enough calls that have that much discrepancy. But outside, I think serving has a lot of that. So if that's kind of toned down in the next couple of years, I think the foreseeable future, we don't need refs.
I think I'm going to go with lip as well. I think similar to Logan, I think switching to referees over observers stems to more active calls, which I think when I think about the active calls in other sports, I don't see us there yet. I think it could be there soon. I think of stepping out of bounds or penalties or things like a lot of things. One is the players do have a strong advantage and an eye that maybe observers are there for they need help, but I would not want to rely on it. And even if they are trained, I think the ability to play on and things like that are very important. I think where this could go in the future is no hit zone violations. Refs would be more important there, but I think we're already kind of there. I think we have observers with active calls. I think that the passive calls work for the other things that exist. I don't know what a referee would add outside of taking some uncertainty from the player if they're not sure if it's a pocket or not, which I think that is a bit of an issue. If, someone hits a serve at me and I'm not sure if it was good or not, and I don't know what to call, I think that's a bit of an issue. But as far as in a perfect system where you have observers who can watch the foot faults, watch the no-hit zone, watch the carries and everything, I think the active calls versus passive calls are set up properly to where with better observers, the system doesn't need to be changed. They're already making those calls that we would want referees to make.
Yeah, totally agree with Mike. I'm trying to figure out, other than observers having flags in their hand to show on the fly if a serve's good or not, what a referee, the name referee, brings to the game. I think maybe just because observer sounds like they're just passively sitting by, being like the person if they but already if one person disagrees with a call, it doesn't need to be the tiebreaker, vote in a sense. If one person disagrees, hey, was that a pocket on a serve? You can go right to the observer and they could say, yeah, it was, even if the other three people were like, yeah, I thought it looked okay. But like that already is the overarching call. So I think if you want to call them referees, that's fine. But I think they already basically do the job of a referee for what our sport needs, with the exception of some type of active call on the fly if a serve's good or not, so that the setter or the receiver can call back that serve. Because since you can play through a pocket, the only thing is, the most frustrating thing is the sport is playing through a pocket you thought was, could have been clean, and then you have to make that nervous 0.3 second decision. Do I try to play through this bad touch, or do I ask the observer and they're like, yeah, it was good, and I never had a chance at the play? So if we could figure out a better way of some type of signaling so that a player knows right away if they can play through the pocket or if it's not, I think they're basically the same thing.
I agree.
I love that. I'm all for the flag idea. I talked to Mike about this a while ago. We need Spikeball branded flags where you can just raise it. It's like play or not play, where you can choose.
Play on.
I love that. Exactly. Okay, so last topic for Ace or Lip, and then I'll look at the points and we'll go to Showdown. The last topic is with the emergence of people like Ryder, Gabe, Volley Llamas, young talent, with their rise in skill over like a year, 2 years, something like that. Is the door open for a new team to emerge in 2021 that overtakes CS or Boisterous, preferably at Nationals, but kind of as the undisputed 1 and 2 kind of teams? Fitzy, you start.
I think it's possible. Because the game is changing so much with the no-hit zone, serving distances. I think a lot of previous mechanics and skills are becoming, obviously it's Roundnet. It's a similar game. There's similar things, but you have to relearn a lot of your game. And if some of those players, such as a CS, Boisterous, Anchored, whoever, aren't willing to put in the time to make those adjustments, and they're just going to keep going out for fun, for travel, to see friends, whatever, but not necessarily trained to win, then it's certainly possible that new players that are ready to take this game seriously can absolutely do that.
Am I next? Yeah. I think I want to say no. They won't overtake them besides Hilltop, but they're not new. I think the new players, I think it comes down to this. I want to say no, but I'll say yes, because I think it comes down to the practice and the grinding. I think we're seeing more in Roundnet, and we've seen every year, players have more resources. There are better players in general, so they can get better faster, and players are just grinding more, grinding out serves, grinding out hits, and playing a lot. So I think they will be over 2. I think the deciding factor, and the reason I want to say no, is there is something to be said for Roundnet experience in the long run. You play for a long time. Mm-hmm. You have the sense. You have PJ getting 2 breaks at 20s at Nationals game 3, right? Like, that's not something you pick up in a year. If you're an athlete in another sport or have strong mental fortitude, maybe. But so I think like skill wise, they could be better. And if they get even past a threshold, they'll outweigh that mental fortitude that these top teams have. But I think that will keep them in there, at least for a little bit.
For me, it's a no. I guess it'd be a lip and probably double fault. Because I think 2022 may be possible, but as for 2021, if we look at a lot of these newer players, they came on the rise in 2020, and a lot of these solidified, solid veteran teams weren't out competing. So we were seeing these people who had results over and over, and they were solid teams. They were beating some other solid teams, but they weren't going through the gauntlet that teams have gone through in the past. So I think that a little bit inflates a lot of what like the younger guys were doing. That's not to take away from their skill or anything, but they endured less of a gauntlet than in previous years, which has kind of been the gatekeeper to a lot of these new teams coming in. So I think throughout 2020, a lot of these higher level teams weren't out competing. And so it made us think like, oh, all these younger guys are coming and they're taking these spots. They're coming, they're going to be the next level. But I think as the season goes on and like all the top level players, it's less about just winning a certain amount of games, but it's winning those games against good teams over and over and over and over. And when a lot of these teams are sitting out not playing a season, you only have to win, 1 or 2 rounds against solid teams. And so that makes it seem it's better. But and it goes back to that mental fortitude Mike was talking about. They have to develop that. So I think a little bit of that has developed. And I think there's just so many. I don't necessarily want to call them secondary because I still think there's primary solid teams that are more likely to overtake CS and Boisterous than a lot of these new teams. And these new teams still have to overtake a lot of these solid teams. Like recently, CS lost to Clark and Cole, like who are solid veteran players. So that's another hurdle they have to jump over. So I think it will happen and these guys will rise, but I don't think it's going to happen this year.
I would like to reference back to my original hot take that all 3 people called a trash take and are now seeing the light a little bit, which is great because I do think in 2022 we may see some new names up on that Nationals podium.
Sean, you said the whole podium.
I made it hot. I made it spicy. So, but yeah, I agree for the most part. I think that these new players coming in, whether you want to call them the secondary or even maybe some of the primary that aren't getting as much podium or as many podiums, they are just putting in the work. And some of these top teams can get complacent or stuck in their ways, or think they don't need to do X, Y, and Z to keep up. And especially when you're introducing new rules, new changes, if they don't stay above that curve, then the new guys will come in and start to edge their way in. I did like your point, Logan, about them maybe not getting as much of a gauntlet in the last year or so, just because of everything going on. I do think there's some truth to that, but just with how many new faces we've seen enter the scene in the last year or so, that's going to keep growing exponentially. And the skill gaps are going to get wider and wider, and these players are going to be hard to keep up with.
Can I track back my point 1 second?
Sure.
So I agree with Mike and Logan that there's not going to be a dozen or a half dozen teams that are going to be replacing a lot of these veteran teams because of all the things they're learning. In my mind, I'm talking about Gabe, Ryder, Folly Llamas, maybe a few other names are escaping me, but people who every single year there's maybe 5 players that break into the scene, make their impact. There's Point Loma. I don't even know, but like that's one that sticks in my mind where it's like they were a top 20 team the year before and you could see that they were progressing. Boom, the next year they're top 7, top 5 getting results.
They didn't usurp though. They didn't become top 1 or 2, which was the question.
Yeah, so if we could see where Gabe and Ryder, who do plan, I believe, on playing together, if we could see them before the no-hit zone rule change being a top 5, a top 7 team, and now we're introducing all these rules and testing players, are you going to put in the time, are you going to put in the work, to players who are already used to people doubting them in a sense and working on their game when no one else was playing. I think there is a world where maybe they're not the number 1 team in the world, but they can beat the number 1 team in the world on a day. And there's really, when it comes down to it, every single year, there's a handful of teams that can beat the number 1, number 2, maybe number 3 teams. Outside the top 10, it usually doesn't happen.
Guys, I'm telling you, Ryder and Gabe getting second at 2021 Nationals is the best thing that's ever happened around that. That's what we'll be saying in 5 years. But I hear you. I think you're onto something there. Will everyone do it? No, but there are definitely some big threats.
I don't disagree. There'll be threats, and I think they could beat the top teams on any given day, but on a consistent level and become we'll just say the PR1 or the PR2. I don't see it happening.
Fair.
I agree. I think maybe 2021 we see one of the 10 tournaments we're supposed to Spikeball is hosting. Maybe 1 out of 10 of those a podium is crazy, and then everything else I think is gonna fall into place. But that's just my opinion. Fall into place. Maybe some surprise third places, but those first and seconds I feel like are gonna be hard to come by for the young players.
And then Utah's not even making a top 8.
Yeah.
Right. Apparently.
Any old chump can rack up third place finishes. So.
Speak for yourself.
Okay.
Literally.
He is.
Literally. All right. We have one section left. As far as my point totals go, I won't spit my point totals, but the 2-point leaders. Fitzy is in first place, and second place I'm gonna give to Logan. So it's gonna be Fitzy versus Logan in the little final showdown. Mike and Sean, you can stay if you want, or you can leave. It's up to you.
Oh, I can't leave this.
You gotta freeze frame them just like in Around the
We'll
Horn.
be here.
You gotta give them their final remarks.
Yeah. Do you have anything to say to wrap up? Specifically about your loss, but
I completely disagree with the loss. I was expecting a win here, so I'm a little disappointed, but I will stick around and watch the showdown.
Yeah, I think not being in the finals is double fault. All serves of your entire game. Every serve. You can't even get a gentleman's on. That's how bad it is.
Yeah.
But
Mike, you can observe the finals.
I'm going to ref, actually.
Active ref.
But it was very fun. I would love to do this again and just hear everyone's and my own trash opinions. And I also don't know how, right? I don't know how much is being is serious and joking. It's really hard to tell right now for myself and for everyone.
We'll have to have another call where we take back our hot takes. We're like, too much.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So this doesn't have to do with points. It's going to be a shootout style. I'm going to give you the prompt, and we're going to start with Fitzy, and then Logan, you say the next one and go back and forth. Penalty shootout wise. I would be very shocked if you don't get the first 5. If someone fails in the first 5, like penalty kick. So then whoever misses first loses.
It's like trivia?
So, yes. Trivia question.
It's opinions.
Roundnet trivia question. So the topic or the prompt is name the players on teams from that finished top 16 at 2015 Nationals.
Top 16, 2015?
Yep.
So who is Logan going first?
You go first.
Oh shoot.
You got the most points.
All right. All right, I'll start from the top. We have Sean Boyer, Skylar Bowles.
Wait. Just name one. Just one.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, my bad.
You're
All right,
good.
Sean Boyer.
I'll take Skylar Bowles because that's
you'll take Skylar. Okay. There you go.
Oh, they're going back and forth.
Yep, back and forth. Sorry, I'm not the best with rules. Okay.
I feel like Logan now has to go next because I could just start naming teams and you can name the partners.
That's fair.
I guess that's fair. We'll revert. We'll snake it.
That's what I'm saying. Sure. You go 2 in a row and then I'll go 2 in a row.
Devin Matson.
There you go.
Jarrett Rouse. Ryan Fitzgerald.
Tyler Chisek. Seth Showalter.
Yep.
Peter John Showalter and Scott Wilson.
Joel Graham and Grayson Ayers.
There you go.
We'll go Anthony Alvino and Zach Delano.
We got you.
Yeah.
No, we'll count it. Tanner Willows.
There you go.
And
if you don't say his partner, I'm gonna be really sad.
He's saving it. He's saving it.
You're saving it.
He's saving it.
Okay.
Partner. Logan Cornelius.
Who knew?
Am I up?
Yep.
All right, we'll go Kit Ryan and Michael Hammersley.
There you go.
Dylan Fogarty and golly, Chadwick. I think Chadwick's last name is Bozeman.
That's not it.
That's not it. It's not like a celebrity. It's Chadwick.
That's Black Panther. You're
His
right.
first name's
Yeah.
Chadwick.
Gotta get the last name.
I gotta get the last name.
Yeah.
Chadwick.
That's definitely the hard part.
You got to try a different one if you don't got it.
You should know this, Logan.
I literally just looked up his last name the other day because I was trying to remember their team name.
You remember their team name?
Yeah, they're Ballbusters.
Blasters. You don't even know their
Close.
team name.
Right. Get him out of here. Get him out of here.
You're right.
All right.
How did this guy make the finals?
All right.
They played in the Heat Wave Classic that year.
Yeah.
Shoot, Chadwick's last name is Kit Ryan and Chadwick. Can I give a different
So
name or am
close.
I
Yeah,
out?
give a different name. Oh,
Yeah,
I'm not
different
the
name.
rule
'Cause
taker.
There's 14 left, so
Okay.
and I want to see if you guys get the
We
rest.
need a time check here.
All right,
Yeah.
fine.
You're right, you're right.
Come on.
Zach
You
Zimmerman.
better hurry. Nope.
No,
Wrong. Incorrect. You
All right.
should have
Rip in the
tried to
round of
remember more.
32.
I couldn't. I
Rip
thought for
in the
sure-
round of 32.
Dang.
They lost to Vengeance, didn't they?
Who?
Did they lose?
Who?
No, they
TBCV?
lost to Rip.
TBCV lost to Rip in the round of 32.
Yep.
Shoot, Rip. I forgot about
All
Rip.
right,
They got
just-
Your
four.
boys.
Wait, let's
got
see who else
four.
we
Go ahead,
got.
Fitzy. Go. Yep.
I don't know if I'll be able to name the rest, but I got Troy Mock, Harding Brumby,
Yep.
Cody Thompson, Chad
Mhm.
Wickersham.
Yep.
Shim.
I feel like I know RIP's names, but
What
they're-
do you know the other you didn't say the other with Cody Thompson.
yeah,
Or Ant.
I can't remember Guns. I'm trying to remember his last name.
Was that Fraker?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Austin Fraker.
I was thinking.
And then I know Ant's partner is Steve Mick something.
Well, that was
Yeah,
I can't remember the Mick.
McNamara.
McNamara.
McNamara, that's what
Yep.
it is.
Yep.
The other teams,
We got Kyle.
There's-
Is it Kyle yet?
We got
Kirkman.
Kyle Kirkman, Brady Smith for
there
Rip.
we go. My
Yeah, I
fault.
love it. You guys went like 1, 2, 3, skipped 4, started going into the top 8.
And then you got AF early, and I was like, all right, there's 3 teams left.
At Drew
Exactly.
Chisholm
like-
channel, you know.
All
AF
right.
was easy for me.
There. If you do, you want me to say them? Or
No,
are you
no,
gonna
no.
guess it
Let's
again?
try.
What are just the teams we're missing?
There. So do you want me to tell you the teams?
No,
Either way.
like,
Either
well,
way.
all right, yeah.
Give the
yeah.
name shout out.
No,
Okay.
the teams and see if we got it.
V2, Beavers, and Hopeless Romantics.
Beaver.
I
Hopefully.
just thought of Drucker. Definitely thought of Beavers.
Yep.
They lost in the round of 16 to Rip. Yeah.
Beavers is a big miss for me. I forgot about V2 and Hopeless Romantics.
Hopeless Bro is
Yep.
that's a tough one.
Yeah, we
I
lost
didn't think either one of you would get. I didn't think anybody in this group chat would get
Was
Hopeless
Hopeless Bro
Romantics.
Chris Place and who was his partner?
It
George.
was
George.
yeah, George.
Oh,
Rizzo.
it
we
was
lost.
George?
We lost
Yep.
to them in the crossover.
George
game.
has some crazy result history.
Yeah.
Especially at nationals, like top 8 then, and then 2017 with
You got top 8
Jeff
with
Schaefer.
Jeff Schaefer. Yeah.
Yeah, which no one saw coming.
Yeah.
Like that was huge.
Oh, Jeff Schaefer's
So-
the GOAT. I saw that coming.
They earned it.
Yeah, and Tom Cortese. I think I don't
So,
know if you guys said that.
Does
but-
that mean Fitzy is our
Cortese?
champion today?
Yes, Fitzy is our first or second, I guess, around the net, around the horn champion.
Easy.
It just so happens to be, our guest. That was not setup, I promise.
It was.
If anything, I was rooting for Sean, but you know.
I mean, you didn't put me in the final, so.
Well, I told you I wasn't rigging it.
You could have said that and still rigged it.
You're right. You caught me.
Hey guys, don't
Fair and square,
how
Fitzy
it played
won.
out, okay?
Logan's just happy. You can't take it away from him. Yeah, so that's it. Do you want to do like an outro, Mike?
Of course, just doing it live. So thank you all for listening. I hope you listen to this because I think this is the best episode we've ever had, and I'm going to make sure everyone knows that. Shout out to Andrew Gasaway.
Like hot takes are over.
Oh, that's good.
Bonus points.
Shout out to Andrew for
final.
You demands a recount.
Sorry, I'm
Shout
ruining the
out-
outro. Go, Mike.
Yes, you're killing me. Shout out to Andrew for putting this all together. It was all him, and this was so fun. And Fitzy for joining us and being a little guest here. And then, of course, to the other
You're
two
not
guests
little.
who
You're
brought
big-
some
you're
wonderful
big,
hot takes.
Fitzy.
Yeah, he came in, took some glory, and now he's gonna run. But anyway, again, thanks for listening. We hope to see you next time. Peace.